Well, there's been growing speculation about whether the Trump administration will actually follow through with the AUKUS submarine deal. Well, former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull doesn't seem to know how to shut up. He's furnished us with his thoughts that no one asked for, which is that Trump will like the deal, but perhaps not for the reason you might think.
AUKUS is a terrible deal. It is so unfair to Australia. And the reason it is unfair is that we are paying $3 billion to the Americans to support their submarine industrial base, but we have no guarantee that we will ever get any submarines. People say, will Donald Trump like it? Well, of course he'd like it. It's such a bad deal for us. His only thing would be back of his mind, he'll be thinking, who are these dumb guys that agreed to this deal?
One wonders how much of that commentary is to do with the fact that Scott Morrison scrapped his deal with France in favour of AUKUS. But meanwhile, the plan to extend the life of our Collins-class submarines might need to be scaled back because government-owned shipbuilder ASC apparently won't be ready in time to deliver the full upgrade for the first boat. Joining me now to discuss this is the Director of Strategic Analysis Australia, Michael Shoebridge. Michael, how worrying are these revelations about the Collins-class submarines? I mean, you know, you've got one job.
Well, they're very worrying, but it's not just ASC, the company, it's Defence and the Navy. They have put too much risk into the Collins class. They're trying to turn an old submarine into a new submarine, and now they've worked out that it's all too hard. So that's the big problem. It's like having a 96 Ford Falcon that you're going to replace the sound system and all the electronics, but it turns out you haven't got time to do anything about the engine, the gearbox or the mechanicals.
It sounds like something one of our contributors, Joe Hildebrand, actually did with his Ford Falcon. It should be noted. But I mean, it is utterly ridiculous to think that, you know, we say, oh, well, we're going to do this. We are in such a poor position when it comes to the on-water infrastructure of our Navy, be it ships or submarines. We have a supposed plan to make sure we can get through until such time as we have brand new nuclear submarines, and that doesn't even work. I mean, we are sitting ducks, really.
Yes, so if we think that the surveillance of those 3 Chinese warships was badly managed this time, as our Anzac frigates get old and taken out of service early, and Collins goes down the same path, the Navy is getting weaker and weaker at a time we need it to get stronger.
What did you make of Malcolm Turnbull's analysis that I played before, that AUKUS is actually a bad deal for us and that is why Donald Trump would be into it?
Well, I actually think there's a potential for Donald Trump to look at AUKUS a completely different way. One thing Donald Trump is certain about is that his predecessor, Joe Biden, made bad deals. Any deal Biden made is a bad one that Trump can do better on. Well, guess who signed the AUKUS deal? Joe Biden. So the risk is Trump wants a better deal than he's already got. But a lot of this is irrelevant. That AUKUS submarine plan is a decades-long thing. It doesn't deliver, even if it goes well, any military power to Australia for at least a decade. We need to do a whole lot more, a whole lot faster with unmanned drones that are armed and unarmed, under the water and in the air, and of course, missile and counter-missile systems. So a lot of this AUKUS stuff is just talk.
You are right, Michael. Now, according to US officials, a Ukraine-Russia ceasefire deal could be just weeks away, with Presidents Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin set to hold discussions in a matter of days. Of course, we know Ukraine is already on board with a ceasefire. Putin, to this point, has said there is no way it will happen. The terms he's putting forward for such a thing to happen are just so ridiculous that presumably the US could never accede to them. How likely are we to actually see a deal for a ceasefire?
I think it's a long way away because you're right. Putin is now thinking he can get even more than in his wildest dreams he thought was possible. He seems to be channeling that old quote, I think it was Napoleon, never interrupt your adversary when they're making a mistake. So he's happy to see wedges driven between the US and Ukraine and the US and Europe, Ukraine weakened, and he's happy to watch more of that happen. So I think any deal, particularly a durable peace, is a long way away.
Just quickly, this business about the Prime Minister floating the idea of sending a small number of peacekeepers to Ukraine if there is a ceasefire, he's kind of putting the cart ahead of the horse, isn't he?
Yeah, look, I think we've got to be prepared with Mr Albanese for another episode of The Mouse That Roared. So he's talking a big game, but anyone that's worried about thousands of Australian troops heading off to Ukraine can relax. This will be just like the contribution Australia's made to keeping the Red Sea shipping lanes open. We're asked for a warship, we sent 5 officers to coordinate things in a headquarters.
You are probably right. Michael, thank you so much for your time.